Hi, everyone. We're just going to give it a few more seconds. We have a few hundred people in the waiting room, a few hundred more to join us in as well. So another 30 to 60 seconds and we'll kick things off. Well, the room is filling out very quickly, so we might not even need to wait that long. For everyone that is just joining us, we're giving it another 20, 30 seconds just to give everyone the chance to join from the start, but we'll kick things off very shortly. All right, I think we are good to get started. The attendees are slowing down. So yeah, Liam, let's kick things off if you want to go to the next slide. Thank you everyone for joining us. A few housekeeping items before we get started. As you know, it's a webinar. We will record the session and share the recording with everyone after. You will be on mute throughout the entirety of the session, but we have the Q&A panel in the webinar. So please do use it. Ask any questions that you might have. We are planning for a short session today. So if we do run out of time, we'll make sure to follow up with you after. But as the guys are going through the webinar today, I will also try and answer questions in the background. So anything you have, please do feel free to throw it in there. So today's, as you guys probably know, we have launched a variety of AI solutions to market just recently that can support the recruiters at different stages of the recruitment process, from enriching job records to identifying good candidates and matching them up to the best jobs, to sending personalized messages, screening those candidates, and proceeding further into the process. On the previous episode, we spoke about how you can use AI search and match to find the best candidates for the jobs that recruiters are working and how that can benefit them in the long term. In today's session, we'll talk about AI screening and particularly the AI screening agent that we have. Liam, if you go on to the next slide quickly. There are a few benefits around the AI screening agent. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I don't want to spoil what Liam has prepared for you guys today. But from a recruiter's perspective, it can help improve the quality of candidates that the recruiters have to speak with. It improves the quality of conversations that they have and the quality of talent that is then presented to the clients. And from a candidate perspective, it improves the overall experience. Candidates don't have to wait around for someone to reach out to them so they can have an interaction. They can immediately go through that first screening process and receive feedback after that's completed. So much more to see as Liam will present and Abad will show us in the demo. Quick round of introductions before I hand it over to Liam as well. For anyone that hasn't met me, my name is Eric Mativ. I'm part of the strategy team here at Bullhorn. I look after automation and AI. AI more so than anything else as of late, as it's so popular in our industry. I've been in the business for 6 years now. I love doing webinars, as you've probably noticed, and I'll be supporting in the background today. This is very much Liam and Abad's show, but I'll be helping out answering any questions that you guys might have. Abad, handing over to you.
Thanks, Eric. So hello, everyone, and hello again if you've seen one of us three on one of these webinars previously. So I'm Abad. I'm one of the solution consultants here at Bullhorn. So today I'm going to be taking you through a lovely demonstration of the screening agent. Excited to be here with Liam again. We haven't done a webinar in a while, have we?
Yeah, but it's been at least, what, a couple of weeks? At least. Yeah, hi everybody. Hopefully I'm fairly familiar. So my name's Liam Ryan. I'm part of the product marketing team. Again, like Eric, I specialize in the automation and AI side of things. So doing a lot of work in terms of all the new AI products and capabilities that we're bringing to market. So really excited to be here. Going to run through, how we think about screening, and then Abad will show you a great demo, and then we can wrap up with questions. So without further ado, I'll crack on. So in terms of agenda, we'll have a quick look at the market trends and the sort of the key industry trends that have shaped really how we've sort of built out our product and our strategy around AI, and especially around AI and screening. We'll then do an introduction into AI screening, what it's about, what it can do for you before we go into a full demo of that. We'll do the demonstration, and then hopefully we'll have a bit of time to run through any Q&A. Cool. So first things first, you would have seen this slide on the previous webinars part of this series. And this is sort of a focal slide in terms of directing where we really focus our efforts in terms of our development of AI capabilities. So we analysed a lot of our customers' recruiters in terms of what they were doing, had lots of customer focus groups and had discussions with recruiters and where they were spending their time. And as you can see from this, a huge amount of time in terms of their day was related towards things like finding candidates, but also screening those candidates. So screening is the second most amount of time spent for a recruiter. And that's specifically a key consideration because whilst it's taking 25 or a quarter of their time, that's not actually screening all of the applicants. Most recruiters will only screen sort of 5, 10, 15% of applicants. So there's a whole host of applicants that don't get screened at all. So not only is it taking a lot of time for our recruiters, and obviously we can help them to get that time back or basically focus on areas of different value, it also is a scenario where it's pretty inefficient in the sense that not all of those top candidates are being screened, and we're potentially missing out on those candidates. So it's a huge opportunity in terms of productivity and also gaining and gathering talent. And then in terms of looking at feedback from our grid research, so for people that don't know, I'm sure everybody already does know who's on this call that we interview a couple of thousand recruitment agencies every year just to see what they're doing in terms of their thoughts on the market, their thoughts in terms of how they're performing and sort of their technology investments. And firms are predicting they could save each recruiter 17 hours per week by adopting AI. And again, what's really important here in terms of this webinar is screening comes up quite considerately in terms of how many hours it's going to save per recruiter. So in this instance, the feedback that we were getting from agencies like yours was that we could save up to 3.5 hours per day or per week, sorry, doing screening, which is a significant amount of time. We actually think that's pretty conservative. We think it could be more than that. And then again, going back to my previous point in terms of the number of candidates that are actually screened, imagine that time if you did screen manually every single application or tried to screen every candidate, it would be far more than 3.6 hours. So the key thing here is that it is 3.6 hours, but again, we're not screening everybody. So that's a really key consideration to make. And then the other key thing is that those 17 hours, if you were to put it in terms of a capacity type of frame, that would be 43% additional capacity if you had those hours back without adding any headcount to it. So introducing AI can be significant to our customers. And ultimately, automated screening does result in revenue benefits. So these are reflected in the experience that we gathered from those responding in terms of their revenue growth. So 43% who automate screening saw revenue growth. And one that's really impactful is that from our talent report, talent were telling us that in order to have a great experience with their agency, they expected to be placed in less than 20 days, which is, a very tight order, a tall order to do. But those that responded to us who were automating screening, they were twice as likely to increase revenue by 10% or more, but also they were twice as likely to be able to reduce that time to fill to 10 days rather than 20 days. So generally, firms are improving recruiter efficiency. They're twice as likely to be generating more revenue, but screening plays a huge important part in that. And it also improves other metrics other than just those top levels. So it's all great talking about revenue, but how do we actually get there? How do they improve their revenue? Well, automated screening improves that time to fill, so under 10 days, as I said. And 65% said they were placing candidates in less than 10 days when they were screening, and 22% more than 10 days. So we know from the grid research that agencies who are automating screening do have that benefit in terms of improved time to fill and improved revenue. Well, you might be sat there thinking, well, this is seriously early days. This is very new in terms of AI and using AI for screening. But it is actually really becoming quite the norm for some of the agencies that we interviewed. 42% of our respondents are already saying that they are using automated screening for candidates. So it's not something that we're seeing a slow burn. A lot of people are picking up on this, using the solutions out there. And we're really excited to obviously bring you and talk to you through our own screening platform. So introducing you to Bullhorn AI Screening. So first things first, what is it? Well, the automated screening is essentially a portal. So the candidate receives a link, they use that link, and then that pops up in the portal, where on the portal they'll have the job description in front of them, and they'll engage in a conversation with the AI screening agent. These questions that it's asked are AI generated, so you generate those. Those questions are generated via AI based on the job, but you can change those questions if you like, or add to those questions if you like as well on a manual basis within the ATS CRM. But the key thing is it's intelligent question generation. It's using AI to generate those questions around the basis of the job. It then will then go through a voice screening, so the candidate's able to respond within their voice, much easier than obviously than typing. And what the agent has the ability to do, it has the intelligence to really probe into certain questions that you want to have answered, but it also can answer questions as well from the candidate. And this is really about automating that top of funnel, being able to make sure that every single candidate has that great experience, where instead of just receiving a rejection mail or email, because you haven't had time to manually screen every applicant, they have that opportunity to pitch themselves, promote themselves as part of that screening. And the other key thing as well is recruiters are then free to focus on the right candidates first, instead of spending lots of time, as Eric said, scheduling calls, going through vast email threads, trying to pick the right time to have that screening with the candidate. The candidate has the ability to be screened at their leisure. It can be whenever they want it to be. They could be screened at 3 a.m. They could click on that link, and at 3 a.m. on a Saturday, they go through that screening. So it's really powerful in terms of making sure recruiters are speaking to candidates once they're qualified, but also giving that great candidate experience. And what can it mean for agencies? Well, we call it the next level of recruitment. But now, so if we talk about or think about the manual world, a recruiter makes 10 phone calls. Those phone calls go to 10 candidates, and those candidates might be 5 that are unqualified, 3 might be possible fits, and 2 might be really good fits in terms of that conversation. And they do that to make 1 placement. But in the AI world, that's very same 10 phone calls, because it's gone through a screening agent and the screening agent's been able to say and identify which are the best candidates, they've scored them strongly, that recruiter then picks up those very same 10 phone calls, but instead they're only speaking to 10 really strong qualified candidates, and instead of making 1 placement, they're making multiple placements, but they're also got the ability to then say, okay, well, I've got all these top candidates, maybe I'll present them to a client I've always wanted to work with, or we can try and win some more jobs by sending these top highly qualified candidates across. So it's really about up-leveling what our recruiters are doing and making them more productive. And then on the other side of things as well, it's about talent experience. So in the current climate, we all know it's quite difficult. There is a bit of a talent shortage. Talent really needs to feel supported in order to actually move roles. So at the moment, they're uncertain. They're staying in roles longer. That's a fact from a lot of the data that we've got. And they also need a high level of service. They need to trust their agency. They need a great level of experience throughout the hiring process to stay the course. And they also need to be presented in the right opportunities. 2 in 5 candidates are declining new opportunities in the current market. And it's really important that we get these things right in order to entice and ensure that candidates and top talent out there stay the course and really want to make that next move in terms of their next job opportunity. And automated screening, that does improve talent experience. It does do that. So one of the key things we need to get across is that every applicant has that fair chance. They're able to pitch themselves as part of that screening. They're able to be more than just a piece of paper in terms of their CV or resume. They can obviously answer those questions and make sure that they're scored in the right way as part of that screening. They're screened on their terms. So as I said, it's 24/7. They're able to not go through that whole scheduling process with a recruiter. They can do the screening when they want, where they want. And then finally, it's also really nice that candidates can then understand why they progress or why they're rejected. You get a score based on that screening, an analysis based on that screening, and it gives power to the recruiters to really enhance that experience, where instead of getting a yes, you did great, you're on to the next stage, or know you've been rejected, you can actually understand how you answered things, why you were scored in that way, and what some of the advice and some of the feedback that the AI agent is giving you. So that's sort of a whistle-stop tour of like the value and the benefits of an automated screening agent. I'll now pass you on to Abad, who's going to run through a demonstration, or the important part of the webinar.
Thank you, Liam.
No worries.
Wonderful. So Liam, I'm going to use you to just double check everything is sharing okay.
Yep, it is.
Lovely, lovely. All right. Hello, everyone. So let's start off from let's start off from the last webinar when we went through Search Match. All right, Search Match was all about helping you find the best candidates as quick as possible, matching them against a job and submitting them to that job. Now, coming back to the same job we were using last time, the IT project manager, if we go to the shortlist, we will quickly see we have 10 online responses and 6 in the shortlist. Now, the reason why I mention this is because there's various ways we can approach screening candidates, and there could be different scenarios where, for example, perhaps you've advertised a job through Broadbean and you have all of those various individuals coming through. Those would show up as an online response, but equally, Search and Match can also match the relevant candidates from within your database where you already have those people, and those would be put against a shortlist. So there's a couple of different scenarios here we can talk about today and how we can potentially approach those, because in terms of the Broadbean example I've just used, where we have lots of, from via the multi-poster candidates, you might want, that might be high volume, and then any candidates you might have matched to Search and Match might be sort of a lower volume situation. So how do we approach this? Now, before we get into actually going through the workflow of getting the screening agent started, I do want to call out, with the screening agent, every job will have this new tab called Screening Questions, and within there is where we can generate automatically screening questions based on the job description. So this will be done automatically, and the great thing here is it will do that in terms of the context of that job. So of course here, this is the IT project manager role, so it's going to ask questions around project management, risk management, things of that kind of nature. Equally, in other examples I've used in the past, such I used one as an aircraft engineer. I like to use that one for some reason. There's complexities there where you need to ensure you're asking for things that are either a yes or a no. And if it's not a yes, then that person isn't qualified. There isn't sort of a middle ground there. So the screening agent is able to take those things into account as part of that job description to ensure that those are generated as part of the generated questions. But you might ask, well, what if I want to manage those questions myself? And the good news is, of course, you can. You can probably see the edit button here. So I can very easily create my own questions or add additional questions as required when I create this job and when those questions are generated. So at the point of the screening agent going out to each of those individual candidates, these are the questions that will be used. And again, this is done on a job-by-job basis. So let's start off with the example of those search and match candidates, right? They've been automatically submitted to a job. What would that look like from a candidate's perspective? So let's go over to our friend Floyd. He's one of our candidates, and he's just received an email. So he's been matched to the job, and now he's received an email automatically to say, hey, we think you're a great match for this role. Let's get you on your way. So I can click find out more. I want to hit that button. That's going to take me to this job, right? And this could be your website, right, with all the various details of your job. But what we can start doing are things like knockout questions, for example, using the chatbot via Bullhorn automation. So it could be things as simple as, well, are you even interested in the first place? Yes, I am. We could even ask questions such as, well, are there certain expectations in terms of salary? Where are you located? Are you authorized to work in said country? And all of these different questions can be, and again, for those of you who perhaps don't know automation that well, all of these can be written back to Bullhorn. So again, whatever outcome you have here, whether the candidate actually passes the knockout or doesn't, you will know why. So again, you can conduct analysis against those individuals. So again, you can see here I'm going through various knockout questions, and again, these aren't set in stone. You get the choice of deciding what that will look like. I'm deciding this. I'm happy to commute or relocate. What's my preferred employment type, etc. And once that's done, and again, based on the flow and based on your decision, you will then decide whether that person can either go to screening or not. And again, we can embed those screening questions or that screening link in here unique to that candidate. Equally, for those other candidates that perhaps are more high volume and you want to just run everybody through a screen really quick just to see, okay, well, which of these people actually come up above a certain score, we are able to approach that in another way where you don't necessarily have to take them through the knockout questions, but you can actually say, well, we've received your application, let's get you screened. And again, we can embed a unique link to each of those candidates with the screening agent. And again, if I click on that as a candidate, this is now going to take me to the screening agent. Again, I can do this on my computer. I could even do this on, and I've been waiting for this the whole afternoon. I can even do this via my mobile phone as well, right? Because this is just a web page. It's not an app. It's responsive to a phone. And again, just like Liam mentioned earlier, we're giving options to the candidate, right? We're not trying to force them to do things as quick as possible. We're letting them, well, I just got that email. Let me get home and I'll go through that screen. Now, when we come onto the screening, into the screen, it shows us the job description. So this is coming straight from Bullhorn, along with giving us a few bits of information. Plan a certain amount of time. We need microphone access, etc. So all of that is there ready for me. Right? When I'm ready, I can then hit agree, and I can start that interview. Can you hear that?
We did not hear that, no.
Let's try that again. My bad. There we go. Right.
Pitfalls of live webinars.
Indeed.
We'll get there, don't worry.
There we go. Okay, I think we're there now. So
Cool.
take the screening, agree, start interview.
Hello, this is Alice, an AI agent for Acme. I am going to interview you for the IT project manager position. Are you ready to begin the interview?
Yes, I am.
Great. Let's get started. Can you tell me about why you are interested in this role?
Yeah, I've been a project manager for a very long time, and I saw this role available and I was really interested. So I think it's a really great next step in my career.
Thank you for sharing that. It's always exciting to take on new challenges and grow in your career. Next, can you describe your experience with managing IT projects, specifically focusing on both infrastructure and software development projects?
I can indeed, thank you. I have managed IT projects across infrastructure and software development, including cloud migrations, network upgrades, and full SDLC processes. I focus on clear communication, risk management, and agile methodologies to ensure successful delivery.
That sounds comprehensive. It's great to hear how you've handled both infrastructure and software development projects. Moving on, what project management methodologies are you proficient in, such as Agile, Scrum, or Waterfall? And can you provide examples of how you have applied them in previous projects?
I am proficient in Agile, Scrum, and Waterfall methodologies. I've led Scrum teams in software development, managing sprints and daily stand-ups to ensure timely delivery. For infrastructure projects, I've used Waterfall to execute structured plans, such as data center migrations. I adapt methodologies based on project needs to maximize efficiency and outcomes. Now, we're going to stop
Your
that
ability to
there
adapt
because we could
methodologies
spend all
based on
day
project
doing
needs.
this. But the idea is, and just like Liam mentioned, it's going to really react to how you speak, what you're saying, and also the length. And it's one of the reasons why we chose audio as a method of delivering my answers rather than text, where I can, sort of go off to ChatGPT or something to get my answers. But it's also looking at things like my tone and how long it's taking me to deliver that information. And also if I'm, trying to fluff my way through as well. Now, off the back of a screen, we then are provided with a report. Now, I saw there was a question earlier. I'm pretty sure Eric answered it. But the idea is that once that screen is complete, that then provides us with a report that's going to be useful to the consultant. So again, we can imagine once that screen has gone through, you're going to want to understand, well, what actually occurred in that call? Is there any information that I can use as part of that next discussion? So we start off with a score. So for those of you, of course, who are familiar with Bullhorn lingo, that score is actually recorded against the submission of the job within Bullhorn. So this is a piece of data we can actually report on and also use as a trigger for automation. We're given an analysis of the conversation and the candidate, along with suggested focus areas, along with a full transcript of the conversation. So this is something that's stored against the job and also the candidate record. And something else to actually call out is because this is recorded against a submission, you will even have the ability to look at that in a list view within Bullhorn too, where you'll be able to see every candidate and their screening score along with the relevant data of that job that they're screening for. Now, coming back to the score for a second, again, just keep in mind with this score, this is where you can start using the results of that score to knock out or take candidates to that next step. So that could be very simply if whoever scores above 80, I then want to progress to the next stage. And anyone below that might be, well, maybe we don't want to progress them, but we still want to take them through a journey through automation. So it could be very simply, apologies, you're not quite the level we require, but we have these other opportunities available. Or if you'd like someone to get in touch with you, please let us know. Now, for those successful candidates, this is where you can then follow up. And that follow-up could look something like this, where when we come back to Floyd, oh, screening is complete. You've passed your screening, right? You've hit above 80. Again, the candidate doesn't know this at this point, but the point is that we can then provide them with the ability to then book time in the consultant's diary. So a really good and really simple way to get from matching candidates, getting them submitted to the job, screening those candidates, and that's the point where once that candidate books time in the consultant's diary, they are able to get involved and provide the most value. So I'm going to stop the demonstration now and hand back over to Liam. So thank you very, very much.
Cool, perfect. So if we sum up quickly what we've just gone through. So what Abad showed is that we've got that job. We've used the AI to generate screening questions based on that job. And as he said, you can add to those questions if you'd like to. We've automated the outreach to start a screening. No recruiters had to get involved with this so far. All candidates are then either pre-screened via the chatbot if you want them to be, otherwise they can be just sent the email directly. And the benefit of that is that you then knock out anybody who, or one of the things that we need to get through on the chatbot is anybody who is not comfortable with either location or salary or some of those like precursors to doing a full screening, you still capture their data. So instead of putting those in the job description and potentially putting people off or putting some people off, you're able to still capture them through the chatbot. If they don't fit in terms of that particular role not being the right salary for them, for example, then they simply just don't go through to the full screening. But you're still capturing that data and capturing that talent where you could put them forward or ask for additional details. That means that you're capturing those within your database. Candidates are then, if they're rightly through the pre-screening, are automatically screened by the agent. As you saw, it's a nice voice, human-esque experience discussing your credentials for the particular role. And then finally, the recruiter interacts with high-scoring top candidates only. They're only speaking or making phone calls to those candidates that are pre-qualified as part of that process, reducing that time to submit and reducing that time to fill. Next slide, please. So if we just want to do like compare and contrast between like the old way of how we do manually do things today and the new way. Today, I'm manually booking, performing basic candidate screening, got the whole sort of fury of having to then go through scheduling, go through different email threads, having to get candidates to do a screening which might not be at the right time for them. There's a huge overwhelming number of applications to sift through. and ultimately many applications don't even get read, to be honest with you, and then top candidates are effectively missed and the details are not captured. In this new way, you create the screening questions that are most applicable for the job. All applicants are screened in that human way. It's a great experience for them. You can discover all the best applications and engage with those top candidates. And as Abad said, you've got the ability to then put in front of those that maybe weren't successful or who are deemed good candidates but not the top candidates. You can put them in touch with other roles that you might have that might be of interest in them, and then you can build out your database further in terms of other candidates. So huge value in terms of screening, and I'll pass you back on to Eric to run through any questions. Oh, sorry. Let's just move on into the questions.
All right. Thank you, Liam. Okay. We are just on time, but we'll spend a few more minutes answering questions because I see there are quite a few coming in and there's more and more. Okay, first question, is your automated screening tool conversational voice AI? I think you asked that question right before we jumped into the demo. So yes, it is conversational AI. We can move past that one. So are all the features shown also mobile friendly? About I don't know if I skipped this. Did we show the mobile side of things, or
I pulled the mobile device on, but I didn't actually go through it. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to answer the question, Amy, yes, it is. It's mobile friendly and it's device optimized. So as in most cases nowadays, people would go through the screening process from their phones. They can absolutely do that.
Yeah, I've got one here from Haley. She asked, does the recruiter only get the book time with James if they score above 80? I think Haley, to answer that, you get to choose what that looks like. So you can make it 70, 50, 60, whatever you like. That's completely possible.
And one thing to add to that as well, whether it's you could have automation auto reject them or auto progress them in the journey. You could also have the recruiter choose that manually. And we used to talk about silver medalists quite a bit, especially in the early days of automation. That was a very popular use case, particularly for candidates that made it in the final stages of maybe the interview, but didn't quite make the cut. Now with the score, you could even start introducing things like bronze medalists. So people who went through the initial screening, they had a specific score, maybe between 75 and 85. They might have progressed to the next step, but then they didn't make it to the interview stage. So these are still very high quality candidates that have already been qualified for a job that you could just have automation put into a hot list, and you can consider those for future opportunities as well, or maybe even just suggest other roles you're working that there might be a good fit for. So that's a use case that you might want to start thinking about as a business. We have a question from Stephen. Is the description pulling from the published description or the non-published? It is pulling from the published description so that you're in control of what the candidate is seeing when they're going through the interview.
I've got one here from John. What happens if the candidate does not want to screen? Well, I think you can give the option, right? Again, it's all about how you design those automations. So it could be a case of, well, if we send out an email with the screening agent on there, you can give the option to the candidate. If you prefer not to, then let us know. We can look at alternative arrangements. So again, that is completely in your control.
You showed the workflow for shortlisting candidates and assigning the AI to call those. However, can it be assigned to call 100% of incoming applications? It's in your control. So you decide which candidates go through that screening process. You could have every person that applies for the job to be invited to do the screening. A good practice here that we would recommend is having that chatbot experience first that Abad showed us in the demo. So that especially if you're in an environment where you have a lot of applications coming through, the chatbot is a great way to ask some knockout questions before the candidate even goes into the AI screening. To Liam's point, you get some essential information that can then feed back into Bullhorn, so you're retaining that data, but also a candidate that is not even a good fit from a basic qualification standpoint doesn't need to go through the full-on interview. They can just get knocked out of the process there and then have to go through the lengthy process themselves. When does this take effect? Do we already have this option? So this technology is already live. If you're interested in having a tailored demo, reach out to your account manager. If you're already a Bullhorn customer, or reach out to our team. We're more than happy to support you in this. Chances are it'll be me and Abad on that call as well. So you'll see a familiar face in there.
Let me see.
Okay.
I got an easy one. Is the recording available after the session to share? Yes, it will be.
Okay, so can candidates choose a language to complete the screening if they're not English speaking? Very good question. Right now it's English only. We are also bringing multiple language support as well, so stay tuned for that. It's coming soon. Okay, questions keep on coming. I don't think we'll be able to cope with everything. We have a few questions on cost. Reach out to your account manager. They'll be able to run you through what options we have in terms of packages.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, it's part of the agent edition of automation, Screen Agent.
Yes, it is. We also had another question. Are all the agents available now from Ash? Yes, Ash, we have a few agents already available. So reach out to your account manager. They'll be able to share what agents we have available right now, including our AI search and match solution that we showed you in the previous webinar. Okay, I don't think we're gonna cope with all the questions, so I'm gonna call it there. We have about another 50 or 60 questions that we'll make sure to follow up with you guys and answer. If you are interested in seeing the product, make sure you reach out to your account managers and we can schedule a tailored demo. Also, if you want to subscribe to our marketing communication, you can scan the QR code. This is where you can access the playbook for automation. Remember that even though we're talking about AI, automation and analytics are key foundational technologies that you need to have as a business to be able to really scale up your strategy. So if you want to learn more how you can be strategic with automation, make sure to scan the QR code. There is also a playbook coming out for AI very soon. So that will be quite useful for anyone that is new or experienced with AI as to other use cases that might be relevant for your business. Thank you all for joining us and hope to see you soon.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.